My name's Tucker. It was my anniversary dinner. My wife picked the location herself. But what I heard that night, during what was supposed to be a celebration of our marriage, changed everything for me. But before I get too deep into that night, I want to rewind a little. See, to really understand what happened and how I responded, I need to take you back to the beginning, back when I first met the woman I thought I'd grow old with. Trust me, once you see the full picture, the pieces start falling into place. It started years ago, when Michelle walked into my life. I was handling a complicated legal matter for her mother. Michelle was there at every court appearance, sitting beside her mom. She didn't say much, barely made eye contact. But something about her intrigued me. I was at a point in life where I was starting to want more than just work wins. Whatever it was, after I helped win the case, I found myself thinking more about her than I probably should have. So I reached out. Michelle didn't make it easy. She played hard to get. She definitely didn't jump at the idea of dating me. She claimed to be too busy, or she'd answer my messages days later. But that didn't stop me. I sent flowers, planned thoughtful dates, left little notes, did things I hadn't done since I was in college. I believed I was showing love. I figured if you care about someone, you prove it. You work for it. So I kept showing up, trying to win her over. Eventually, after months of chasing, she said yes with a soft smile and a "let's see where this goes." I should have paused there, asked myself why I was always the one pushing forward. But I didn't. I felt like I had finally cracked the shell, and what lay underneath was someone worth all the effort. The relationship that followed looked stable from the outside. I was still busy with my legal practice, long hours and demanding clients. But I carved out time when I could. And when we were together, I made sure those moments were special. We traveled to nice places. I booked reservations at the best restaurants. I gifted her with things I thought she'd love: designer bags, jewelry, surprise spa days. I wanted to be someone who provided and made her feel cherished. After about a year, I proposed. She said yes. But after we got married, I started noticing little things. Or maybe they weren't little. I had just ignored them before. There was a lack of warmth in how she responded to me. A kind of emotional distance I couldn't explain. Intimacy was rare, and when it did happen, it felt mechanical. Like it was just something to check off a list. And the only time I saw genuine excitement in her was when I gave her something or money for something she wanted. I still didn't confront it. I thought she's probably adjusting to marriage. Maybe this is what settling down looks like. And besides, I believed love meant providing. So I focused on that. I gave her everything, the kind of lifestyle most people dream about. I even stepped in to handle her family's problems, both legal and financial. Few months before what would have been our third wedding anniversary, I was working like crazy. Long hours, high-profile cases, court dates stacked back to back. But somewhere along the way, I realized I was missing too much. I felt if I spent more time with her, maybe she will see more of my personality and warm up to me. So I made a choice that I thought any woman would appreciate. I scaled back my workload. Not completely, but enough to start being present at home. I wanted more time with Michelle. I wanted to reconnect. But that was when things got weird. You'd think she'd be happy, right? That her husband finally had time to sit with her, eat with her, talk, laugh, maybe even just be a couple again. But instead of being glad, Michelle looked irritated. Like my being around was an inconvenience. It hit me fast, but I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe she needed to adjust, that it was a change of routine, and she'd warm up again. But she didn't. We barely touched each other. She denied any kind of intimacy, even though she wasn't working or didn't have much on her plate. I'd come home early from work, and she'd be stretched out on the couch scrolling on her phone. Every time I tried to initiate a romantic moment or even just sit close and talk, it felt like I was interrupting something more important. If she's out and I asked where she'd been or what she'd been up to, her answers were vague at best. Then when I tried to plan something for just the two of us, a date night, even a simple dinner at home, she'd either shoot it down or say she already had something going on. She seemed allergic to spending time with me unless she initiates it. That's when the questions started piling up in my head. Had she always been like this? Or was I so wrapped up in work that I failed to see it. I observed, quietly, and for the first time in years, I saw our marriage for what it really was, a performance. One that I had been funding emotionally and financially. Still, a part of me held on to hope. Our third anniversary was around the corner, and to be honest, I had mixed feelings about it. Marriage hadn't exactly been what I imagined it would be when I said I do. Still, I wanted to believe we could reconnect. So when Michelle told me she wanted us to celebrate at this upscale, luxury restaurant she'd been eyeing, I saw it as a sign. I thought, okay, she picked the place. That means she's invested. That means she cares enough to want to spend the night out with me. I convinced myself that if I just made the evening special enough and created the right atmosphere, it could spark something between us. It could remind her why we chose each other in the first place. I needed that. But as the day drew closer, I started to notice something. She didn't seem excited about us. She was excited about the venue. She talked about the food, the aesthetics, the vibe of the place, how her friends would be jealous when they saw where she was dining. Not once did she mention the fact that it was our anniversary. Not once did she talk about what the day meant to her. Still, I came prepared. I went out and got her flowers, the kind she used to say she liked when we were dating, even though I couldn't remember the last time she showed any excitement over getting them. I dressed well and made sure everything looked perfect. And I bought her a gift. The evening started off fine. We were seated at a candle-lit table, tucked into a quiet corner like she requested. The waiter brought out champagne, and we toasted. She smiled, but it felt like I was sitting across from an actress playing the role of a loving wife that evening. She was more focused on her phone than anything else, snapping pictures of the table, the food, even herself. She posted it all online. She never once asked me how I was feeling or what the past 3 years meant to me. After the main course, I excused myself. I said I was going to the restroom, but I actually just wanted to settle the bill early so it wouldn't interrupt the flow of the evening. As I came back down the hallway, I slowed my pace because I didn't want to rush. Then I heard her on the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help it. I was only a few steps from our table, still out of her sight. She was laughing, like she was talking to a girlfriend. "Ugh, I'm still here, but this location is beautiful," she said, giggling like a teenager. "He's just gone to the restroom, but of course I'm only with him for the money and how he takes care of me. You think I'd still be doing this otherwise?" That alone was enough to make my stomach twist. But then she said something that knocked the air out of my chest. I never ever had any feelings for him to begin with. My mother forced him on me. Just like that, years of effort, sacrifice, and love collapsed in an instant. But I didn't react. I didn't storm over or make a scene. I didn't call her out or confront her right then and there. That's not how I operate. Instead, I took a deep breath and walked back to the table with a smile on my face. I sat down, pretended like nothing happened. She looked up, said something about dessert, and I nodded. We finished the meal. She took a few more pictures. Then I drove us home in silence. She probably thought I was just tired. But really, that was the night everything died for me. That wasn't an anniversary dinner. That was a funeral for everything I believed our marriage had been. For days after that, I moved like a ghost through my own house. I was grieving the man I used to be. That man had ignored so many signs. It was always me reaching, me giving, me hoping she'd one day match the energy. And she never did. But grieving wasn't the end of it. I'm a lawyer. And if there's one thing the courtroom teaches you, it's that reacting emotionally gets men in trouble. Especially in marital cases. I've watched too many men lose everything because they let their pain turn into panic. I wasn't going to be one of them. So instead of lashing out, I planned. The first move was to know what I was dealing with. I hired a private investigator. Expensive, but worth every dime. I gave him a simple task. Find out what she does when I'm not around. I didn't need to know everything. I just needed enough. While the PI went to work, I started combing through our finances. I pulled our joint account statements, month by month. I was hunting for red flags. Every inconsistency went into a folder. My goal was to build a case for financial negligence. I stopped all unnecessary spending, canceled every automatic transfer to her personal accounts. No more weekly deposits just because she wanted to shop. I started valuing and documenting every major asset under my name. Our house, my investment portfolios, business shares, you name it. Everything got locked down and backed up. I contacted my insurance providers and quietly changed my beneficiaries. I even updated my will. It took a few weeks, but the PI came back with more than I expected. Michelle had strings of flings with multiple men over the years. There were some pictures as evidence of infidelity. Even though I'm a lawyer, I didn't want my judgment clouded by personal investment. So I hired another divorce attorney, to handle the divorce. I handed over every piece of evidence. I gave clear instructions. I want my assets protected. Meanwhile, at home, I started withdrawing. I stopped initiating conversations. Made myself busy with work again. I became unavailable. It didn't take long for Michelle to notice that something had changed. She texted me one afternoon while I was at work. Why isn't my card working? I didn't sugarcoat my reply either. I just told her straight, you're done using me as a cash cow. That one sentence lit the match. She called me immediately, 5 times in a row. I didn't answer. I wasn't interested in another round of rant. So she did what people like her do when control slips from their hands. She lashed out. The texts came in rapid fire. Accusation. Insults. Every bitter word she could think of. She told me I was cruel, that I was abandoning her, that I never really loved her. Eventually, I picked up my phone, typed one last message, and sent it. Your divorce papers will be ready soon. When I came home that evening, I packed a few essentials and stayed away. I didn't go back to that house. I made plans to stay gone until everything was finalized. Of course, she didn't take it well. Michelle did what I expected. She dragged the divorce into court, trying to stretch it out as long as possible. She tried to paint herself as the victim, claimed I blindsided her, abandoned her, emotionally neglected her. But the difference between us was, I didn't walk into that courtroom hoping to win with feelings. I walked in with receipts. I always thought the hardest part of a divorce would be the paperwork, the legal tug-of-war, the uncomfortable meetings with lawyers, the courtroom tension. But it wasn't. The hardest part? It was waking up and realizing I'd been in love with a lie for years. After months of back and forth, court appearances, legal drafts, counterclaims, and a tug-of-war that tested every ounce of my patience, the marriage was finally dissolved. On paper, I was free. But emotionally, that took a bit longer. I took a leave of absence from my law practice, not because I was broken, but because I needed space to process everything. I needed to sit with myself for once, without distractions, without work, without her. During that time, I spent hours just thinking. I looked back on the version of me that fell in love with Michelle. I remember how sure I was that love was supposed to be shown through actions. Providing, protecting, sacrificing. But I learned the hard way that love, real love, has to be mutual. It can't just be one person pouring and the other person sipping endlessly. The truth is, I didn't just marry the wrong woman. I ignored every sign that she wasn't right for me because I was obsessed with the idea of love. Turns out, no amount of giving can change someone who never wanted your heart in the first place. A lot of people ask me if I ever checked up on her after everything. If I ever stalked her socials, asked around, tried to see if she regretted it. The honest answer? No, I didn't care. The day I left that marriage was the day I stopped giving her any part of me. Not my money, not my time, and definitely not my curiosity. Whatever became of Michelle after the divorce. That's her story, and I have no business flipping through that chapter again. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to leave you with a few things I learned from this whole ordeal. 3 solid takeaways that I hope hit home for someone out there. Lesson 1. Love isn't sacrifice alone. Don't fall for the idea that you have to give and give just to be worthy of someone's affection. If they can't meet you halfway, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, then it's not love. It's emotional labor, and you're not their savior. Lesson 2. Leave with your dignity intact. I left quietly, smartly, with a plan. And that's what saved me. When you walk away from someone who never valued you, do it with your head high, not your heart in pieces. Now I've got a question for you all. If you were in my shoes, would you have gone hard on her? Put her on blast? Made her life hell? Or would you have left her behind like a chapter that no longer fits the story? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.